The story of Shedeur Sanders doesn't read like your typical draft day drama. It's not just about passes, stats, or the number on his jersey. It's about a power play that has shaken the very foundation of how athletes are supposed to behave in the machine of modern sports. Where most young quarterbacks spend their first seasons learning playbooks and sticking to the PR script, Shedeur tore that script to shreds before he ever threw a pass in Cleveland. And in doing so, he lit the fuse of a revolution the NFL never wanted to see coming. Picture the scene. A preseason game in Cleveland, the kind of event that usually flies under the national radar. But this time something was different. Entire sections of the stadium were packed with students, kids who normally couldn't afford a ticket, screaming their lungs out like they'd been waiting for this moment their whole lives. They weren't there because of a marketing campaign or a school-sponsored trip. They were there because Shedeur Sanders made sure of it. Thousands of free tickets went straight into their hands, bypassing corporate season ticket holders and wealthy fans, creating the kind of raw, unfiltered home field advantage that no luxury box could ever buy. That wasn't charity. That was strategy. Sanders wasn't just filling seats, he was building a movement. Every student who walked into that stadium became more than a fan. They became family. The kind of family that defends you online, follows you into every battle, and never lets your name die out in the crowd. While other quarterbacks were busy polishing their Instagram feeds with sponsored posts, Shedeur was planting seeds in the community that will bear fruit for decades. The power behind that move wasn't just in the tickets. It was in the psychology. Shedeur understood that loyalty isn't given, it's engineered. When those students saw him fighting to bring them into the building, they didn't just cheer, they invested. They painted their faces, lost their voices, and turned the stadium into a fortress of chaos. For the Rams stepping onto that field, it wasn't just 11 players they had to worry about. It was an entire generation screaming from the stands like their lives depended on it. That's not home field advantage. That's psychological warfare. Now here's where it gets even more dangerous for the league. Shedeur didn't have to do this. Before his first official NFL snap, he was already sitting on more than $30 million in NIL deals, car sponsorships, and shoe contracts. He had more leverage walking in than most rookies could dream of. And that alone made executives nervous. Add in the fact that he's the son of Deion Primetime Sanders, the man who once rewrote the rules of athlete empowerment, and you had NFL boardrooms buzzing with anxiety. Primetime didn't just play football. He changed the business of football. He was the first to demand guaranteed contracts when nobody thought it was possible. He played two sports at once, showing players they didn't have to live in one league's box. He forced the NFL to recognize the value of star power beyond the field. And now his son is evolving that blueprint for a new generation. The NFL wasn't just getting a quarterback. They were getting a living, breathing reminder that the players can write the rules if they're bold enough. That's why Shedeur's draft slide wasn't some fluke. Everyone saw him as a top 10 pick. Scouts drooled over his tape. Analysts raved about his leadership. Yet somehow he tumbled all the way to pick 144 in the 5th round. That wasn't oversight. That was punishment. It was the league sending a message. We don't like when players come in with too much power, especially young black quarterbacks who won't bow to the system. They wanted him humbled, manageable, easy to control. But instead, they created their worst nightmare. Falling to the 5th round didn't break Shedeur. It armed him. Every team that passed on him became fuel for the fire. Every doubt became a receipt. Cleveland didn't just draft a quarterback. They drafted a man with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. That first preseason game? It wasn't just a debut. It was a warning shot. And here's the part that rattled executives the most. Shedeur wasn't content to sit quietly and build his brand on endorsements alone. He walked into Cleveland and built it on people. Real people. The kids who could barely scrape together money for rent, who'd never dream of affording NFL tickets, were suddenly sitting in the front row because their quarterback decided they belonged there. That kind of connection can't be bought or controlled. It's authentic, and authenticity is the one thing corporate America can't mass produce. The league has seen flashy stars before. They've seen guys with swagger, with money, with highlight reels. But what Shedeur represents is more dangerous. A quarterback who understands that real power doesn't come from contracts or commissioners' offices. It comes from the streets, the stands, and the communities who ride for you no matter what. And the ripple effect is already starting. Other athletes are watching him and realizing they've been playing the wrong game. They thought endorsement deals and Instagram likes were the key. Shedeur just proved that the real empire comes from investing in people. When fans feel chosen, they'll follow you to the ends of the earth. They'll defend you in comment sections, spread your story without being paid, and turn every moment into a memory they'll never forget. That's not marketing. That's mythology. The NFL thought they could humble him by pushing him down the draft board. Instead, they gave him a platform to show just how unstoppable he is. And now Cleveland has a quarterback who isn't just playing for wins. He's playing for something bigger, for ownership of his own narrative, for a movement that can't be silenced, for a legacy that money can't buy. 20 years from now, nobody will remember Shedeur's preseason stats. They won't care what round he was picked in. But those kids who walked into the stadium for free, who screamed his name until their voices cracked, they'll never forget. They'll tell their children they were there when Shedeur Sanders flipped the system. That's not fandom. That's family. Shedeur didn't just give out tickets. He gave out ownership stakes in his story. He proved that the most dangerous player on the field isn't the one with the biggest arm or the fastest legs. It's the one who can turn a crowd of strangers into a community, who can transform a simple act of generosity into a revolution. The NFL tried to bury him, but they forgot the golden rule of Sanders' DNA. You can't bury it. You can only make it stronger.